well, I know everyone was excited to get to the APIs and stuff, so I kind of just want to leave a little information about how you can go further with this, because I would imagine this is probably what you want to take advantage of. Um, as far as like databases can go, I purposely didn't want to connect to a database and do stuff like that because I think it gets a little complicated. But it's not much. It really depends on the ORM or the implementation of the database that you're using. That's going to determine how you use it in Express. But for the most part, if you have an ORM, that has models or whatever implementation that you have, you would just use those same things exactly where I'm using my database, except these would just be async. And you can these handlers are async. You can put async in front of them and you can await them, and it works totally fine. So you can do all the things in here that are async. So this is where you would do your database stuff. And sometimes you would put them in middleware too. You might make your own custom middleware that checks the database if the incoming requests API key actually exists, or if it's valid, or if it's not expired. You make middleware for that before it even gets here. So you can pretty much do a lot of stuff with Express when it comes to building APIs. And I mean, just the combinations of the routes here, just to give an example of another one that is probably something that you would want to see is like a dynamic one. So for instance, if I wanted to be able to get a to-do by a specific ID, I could do something like this. I can say app.get /to-do / some parameter here called ID. And then now I can say, well, give me the to-do where to-dos dot find the to-do whose to-do dot ID triple equals rec dot params dot ID. This is going to be a string where I know this is a number, so I'm going to like convert this to a number, or yeah, I'll convert this to a number like that. I think that converts it to a number, or we're going to find out. So we'll get the to do, and then I'll just do something like this: data to do. So now this is a dynamic parameter that can be anything, but it's referred to as the ID because that's what I called it here. If I called it something else, that's what it will be called here as well. So I'm gonna call this an ID. I'm gonna close this one. And now if we go back here, we start the server. I got, I'm missing a parentheses, or what am I missing? I don't know why that thing's freaking out. Unexpected token, okay. Maybe the plus sign doesn't like it. Let's try this. Okay, there we go. So we got that, and now I need to post some to-dos right quick so I can get some IDs. Okay, cool, I got an ID. And then now I'm gonna say, let me do a get to-do / that thing. You can go away. And this thing freaks out because it says, oh, I put to-dos, it should be DB. Let's try that again. Posts, get that ID. Try that again. There we go. I was able to get the to-do back by the ID with a dynamic path. So you can see it gets really powerful. You can put as many of these one in here. You can even do regexes in these paths if you want to. Express is ridiculous. You should check out the documentation if you want to learn more about it. So if there's no other questions about Express, we will move on, unless there are some questions.
What is the use for the body parser, or what happened if we didn't include it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm gonna get rid of this one, the body parser JSON, and then I'm gonna try to post. I'm gonna try the post and see what happens. I think that will give us the error that I'm looking for. So I got rid of the body parser, and I'm gonna try to do a post here. And you can see right now, instead of it creating a to-do that had an ID and a text property, it only created a to-do with an ID. Like, why did it do that? Well, let's think about it. Rec.body.text is now undefined. There's nothing there. So if you add an undefined field to an object, it basically just gets deleted when you turn it to JSON. So this was basically undefined. And this was undefined because the body parser did this. The body parser takes whatever is posted on the body and attaches it to an object called body on the request object as an object. Without the body parser, we wouldn't have this, and we would have to do the exact same thing we did here. We'd have to say request.onData, build the chunk, collect the chunk, and then we have it. And that's just really gross. So we don't want to do that. The body parser, at least the body parser.json does that. URL encoded, we're actually not using. But this does the exact same thing, but for query strings. So if someone sends up a URL with a query string that had, I don't know, an object on it or a couple variables that are comma separated, the URL encoded would parse that and give us access to it via, rec.query. So there'll be something called rec.query here, and it will give us access to that. So that's why we use the body parser. So it's a very fundamental piece of middleware. In fact, a lot of this stuff used to be included in Express, and then Express started to like decouple and was like, we're just gonna be a little more fundamental and you can add whatever you want. So that's how it is. But then there's frameworks that sit on top of Express because Express has become so universal that pretty much every framework is built on top of Express now. So you'll see things like Nest.js or I can't think of them. I don't really use them. But most of the GraphQL stuff like Apollo GraphQL, Apollo Express, a lot of stuff is built on top of Express because the pattern is just such fundamental to Node these days. So yeah, you'll see a lot of stuff like that. Any questions?
This person says in their VS Code, it says body parser is deprecated.
Body parser is deprecated. It's hard to say why someone's VS Code would say that. I mean, the best way to confirm that is to go to body parser, npm. We can look it up. Published 2 years ago. It very well may be deprecated. So we can go look at the GitHub. I don't see any deprecation notice here in the docs or anything like that. But 2 years ago, it could have been. Who knows? I can look at some issues here. Yeah, it's hard to say why that would say that. But I mean, VS Code is VS Code. So it's not actually running your code, it's just doing static analysis. So if it works, it works. VS Code is just trying to be helpful before you actually attempt to run the code. So remember that, it's not actually executing it.
Yeah, and Stack Overflow is just saying that the body parser constructor is now deprecated and you need to call URL encoded in .json separately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that. They did do that a couple years ago. It used to be the fact that you just had to use body parser, and then you would pass in like JSON, true, or extended. But now they got rid of that, and you actually just use these independently from each other. Good question. So is res.end not mandatory? Well, actually, we are doing res.end. You just aren't explicitly doing it. When we do something like res.json, that's actually ending it for us. It's basically saying, hey, I want to end this response with this request that's going to be JSON. It's the equivalent of doing something like this. Res.json is basically saying like res.end, but not before you do something like res.writehead. You say writehead, and then you put, what is it? Content type. So it's like content type, application, JSON. So res.json is the equivalent of doing that. Passing in a JSON string here and then writing the head. So who wants to do all that from scratch when you can just do res.json?
Could you compare Express and Happy?
I can try. And that's only because I've only used Happy once in my entire life. And so I'll give you the comparison that I know that I can speak with most experience about. And that would be that the community for Express is just much bigger. The support for Express is just much bigger. I don't know if Happy is better or more performant or overall in general, just you should use it. All I can say is that Express just has the most support, the most plugins, the most middleware, the most framework sitting on top of it, probably the most active community of any server framework in Node.js. And I can't say that about any other framework, even Happy. Yeah, although Happy is obviously very well known and is a big framework, it's just not as big as Express. It's like, I guess, the difference between like Vue and React. They're both amazing. I love Vue. But React's community is just overwhelmingly huge compared to Vue, even though Vue's community is pretty big too. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. You can't go wrong with either. The support there for both is pretty great.
Then someone's saying body parser is actually built into Express, with v5, and so you can just do app.useExpress.json.
Yeah, I have yet to use Express version 5. I haven't even looked at it. Last time I checked it out, they were still working on it. So it sounds like maybe they haven't figured out. I don't know if that's the final version or if you're looking at a beta, but I have to check that out. That's pretty cool that they, because I mean, I would literally just said, hey, everyone uses body parts. I don't know why they just don't include this. So the fact that they did it is pretty impressive. But yeah, I'm on the 4X train right now, rocking that Express 4. So yeah, I would check that out. Good to know. Thanks.
I would recommend that people check out your API design and Node course if they want to go further.
Yeah, definitely recommend checking that one out. It's like up to V3 now, and I go pretty deep on building APIs with Express and Node. And although it's using Express version 4, it's pretty much the same thing. So highly recommend checking that one out. And if you like GraphQL, that's what you're doing. I also have a backend GraphQL course on Frontend Masters as well if you want to check that out. And that sits on top of Express. So it's just Express all the way, top to bottom. There's no way around it. I promise you they're not paying me to say this. I just like Express. It's a good tool. So yeah.